Hello and welcome everybody to this XTB live news video. My name is Walid Koudmani, market analyst for XTB. And in this video, we're going to be talking about the main events happening in the markets this morning, what we can expect from the US session, what to keep an eye on from the economic calendar point of view, and then we're going to be taking a look at the charts to see some major moves and some key levels to keep an eye on. So let's start with a recap of what's happened over the weekend. So of course, weekend sessions closed, but we had some major moves and some major political events happening. So we had the biggest moves were in the crypto market. We also had the announcement of a football super league being formed, which then ended up impacting a lot of clubs and their stocks. We also had the rising tensions between Russia and Ukraine, which, as is also escalating, is intensifying tensions between Russia and the US. And the UK has decided to move some troops into the Black Sea to kind of counter the advance from the Russian troops as well. Where this is leading is kind of unclear because it is standoff at the moment. It is a proxy situation where Ukraine is the middle ground. But at the moment, these are certain things that the markets could be keeping an eye on, especially today with a lack of macro data. We have the U.S. earnings season continuing. Last week we had the banks and financial institutions mainly. Today we have a few more companies as well, some major ones that I will announce in a second. But we had the major crypto crash yesterday and about 10% Bitcoin drop. Slight recovery today, and we saw a positive session in Asia and then the start of a positive session in Europe, which then ended up turning a little bit mixed. When it comes to the economic calendar today, as I said, not much in the way of macro data, but it is worth keeping an eye on the fundamental news and any sort of headlines relating to either the Russia situation, Russia-US situation, vaccination issues with whether it's the AstraZeneca or the lack of supply in mainland Europe, which is affecting the recovery. Or it could be where due to any sort of other political tensions, which could then impact perhaps oil prices. We do have, as I said, some major earnings today with Coca-Cola, major company, IBM, after market close. Coca-Cola is going to be before, and United Airline Holdings after market close. So some major companies today. Definitely keep an eye out for the US indices, as the US earnings season tends to have quite a big impact on them. Stock markets started the day and the week positively with some pullbacks here and there, as we saw, and as I'm going to go and show you in a minute on the charts. A developing story to watch, though, as I mentioned again, is the situation on the Russian-Ukrainian border, because as the tensions escalate, there could be other parties as well starting to enter the fray, and if not for nothing else, just diplomatically, it could be some sort of an event to keep an eye on, because it could increase tensions on that end. So housing starts from Canada for March today at 1:15, but besides that, we don't really have much. So let's take a look at some charts and see what's been happening on the markets. Let's start with the DAX as always. DAX actually, as I said, managing to start the week slightly positive, but then pulling back. But as you can see, in the longer term, definitely still the upward trend maintains. At the end, after reaching a new all-time high of around 15,530, we saw this slight pullback, and currently the index is down about 0.6%, trading at 15,451, still above the longer-term SMA, and at the moment intersecting the two EMAs, 8 and 21. So we're seeing this consolidation phase here and then this consolidation phase here, as I mentioned at the end of last week. It really does depend, because this is the pattern we've been seeing at the moment, where it reaches a new all-time high and then consolidates and then decides where to move from there. The US session today will definitely play a part into this, so it's important to keep an eye on. But if you look at the RSI, it's completely different from where it was at the end of last week. So last week it was severely overbought, at the moment at 36.5. Not quite oversold, but in that territory close by. When we look at the FTSE, the UK index, slightly different situation. Well, I'll go on the hourly. Similar situation to the DAX, but a little bit more positive, as you can see. Not quite the pullback, but also reaching highs of 7,000 points, testing them, and then consolidating right below it, which remains the key level to keep an eye on for potential resistance, is around 7,000. While if it were to pull back, perhaps this area price reaction, which acted as a resistance in the past and then potentially a support here, also around the average, we can see that could potentially be a support to keep an eye on. Still an upward move, and if you want to track it backwards, we can see that it's actually, it took several months to reach a higher high than December, but after several ups and downs, the UK index has managed to reach the high. If we want to take a look at some US indices before the start or at the beginning of the session, this performance is slightly more similar to the DAX, so the D30 that we saw, but still remaining around all-time highs. So slight pullback, slight slowdown in the upward movement, especially if you want to take a look at these other candles. As you can see, very high volume green candles, but at the same time, we did not see a trend reversal yet. We are seeing some tests of the all-time high. And as I'll show you in the Nasdaq, similar situation here to the DAX as well, reaching all-time highs and then pulling back slightly. Although the Nasdaq, as you can see, slightly worse performance, going to be worth keeping an eye out for today's IBM report, because obviously IBM is a tech company. And then as we go into the earnings season further, we're going to be seeing a lot more earnings from tech companies like Alphabet, Google, you know, the FANG companies, as they would be called. Those are the ones that tend to have the most effect on the Nasdaq index, because as we've mentioned in the past, and I've talked about this, the distribution of weight in these indices is not equal. So it's not because there's 100 companies, they all have the same influence. As shown by the distribution in the S&P and the Nasdaq, there's a very small amount of companies that actually drag the index up or down, and all the other ones follow. And if you go and look at the price to earnings ratios or sort of price to sales ratios, you'll find that a lot of the companies in these indices are actually not performing as well as the index themselves. So worth keeping an eye out for the earnings moving forward, worth keeping an eye out as well for some sort of geopolitical news, and any sort of pandemic recovery news could be impacting this. From a technical point of view, as you can see, this pullback has led to this level around 13,960. And this level has acted as a support several times in the recent past, even here, tested here, and now it is being tested once again. Now, if it were to break it, you can see that the upward move started from around 13,788. So it does remain to be seen where it will stop, but the previous consolidation can be found around 13,788, which is still very close to its previous all-time high, and now we are still above the all-time high, as you can see. If we look at commodities, let's take a look at gold. Gold still continues the positive week, and the positive week from last week we saw. From the end of March, there has been some sort of a recovery. I talked about this at length in the previous video that we did, which if you can check out on the YouTube channel. And you'll see that I was mentioning how gold actually tested these highs and these lows twice each. So we saw the test of the 1755, besides this one, 1755 twice, and then the third time was a break. On the lower end, we saw the test of the 1678 twice, and then the second time was a break, because as you can see, as I mentioned, also the upward move was more green and more direct. We did have the retest and the pullback, and then after the second test, or the third test if you want to call it, even though there was not really a test, we saw the breakthrough and reaching of a high of 1780, almost 1790. 1790 is an area that hasn't been reached in several weeks, in fact a couple of months at this point, since February. But at the moment, the price has slowed down at this level and is trading around 1775, 1776. It managed to bounce off the Ichimoku cloud on the H4 as well, so it still remains above that. And as we can see, there is a weakening of the US dollar that I'm going to be talking about, because the overlaid chart that you can see here is the USD index. So we're seeing a pullback of the US dollar, which tends to help as well precious metals, in particular gold. If we go and take a look at silver, it should be a slightly similar situation, as I said, increase as well, but with a pullback today. Silver price dropping from today's high about almost 2%, and now currently testing the Ichimoku cloud. If we want to take a look at oil, another positive day for oil. So on the 4-hour chart, we can see that if we break it down on the 1 hour, we saw a little bit of a downward gap at the beginning, and then some lateral trading at the moment inside the Ichimoku cloud on the H1 test, or approaching the upper limit, but not breaking through it yet, and still remains well above the 100 SMA and then 200 SMA. So as you can see, last week we had this upward move jump, and it took the price into this new consolidation area where it's been ever since, between $66 and then $67.30. This has been the range where the price is traded. And then before that, we saw this long extended trading in this other range. If I remove the WTI chart, you can see For quite some time, it was trading in these ranges. And at the moment, the price has consolidated around 66.77. Things to keep an eye on, as always, are the inventory reports from the US, political news in the Middle East, especially with the Iranian tensions, as I mentioned, along with the OPEC production cuts, which are being not extended, as I mentioned as well. So if we go in then and then take a look at WTI, similar situation to Brent, but up in the last few days over 6%, and now currently trading at 63. As you can see, it consolidated around $60 up and down, quite a varied range. And then you can see the range narrowing down until it breaks up and continues the upward move, breaking through all the averages and the Ichimoku cloud. If we go and take a look at, let's quick look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin at 56, you can see this huge drop and then consolidation, as I mentioned, which was seen in all the crypto market as well. And then we have the currencies, traditional currencies. If we take a look at the market analysis section on the website or on the chart on the platform, the XStation 5, you can see these currencies are performing well. So obviously, dollar, one of the worst performing currencies today, trading lower against all these, only positive against these ones, the Russian ruble, the Turkish lira. Euro mixed performance, pound actually one of the better performing currencies today, along with the Swiss franc, New Zealand dollar, some of the best performing currencies today. And if I go and show you some pairs, you can see, look at this, pound dollar extending the upward move from the end or from the middle of April. We saw the upward move start from this low of 137.1 after the consolidation in this area, and then as you can see, very straightforward upward move, slight pullback here on 138, but then very straightforward continuation, 1.5% up, currently above 139, 139.3. Next level to keep an eye on could be around 139.5, as we can see like some highs reached here in the past, some previous reactions, but really these key levels, of course, 139, these tend to be psychological levels as well. And there's several things to keep an eye on this week, including central banks mainly. So there's going to be a UK data tomorrow, which is unemployment data, could be affecting the pound. Any sort of recovery issues with the vaccine or the distribution could be affecting the pound as well. Any sort of comments from the Bank of England. And of course, as always, the US dollar weakness as well, or strength. In this moment, as I said, from this low, the pound has managed to recover above 137, breaking through 138, now 139. And could move up or could pull back. It really remains to be seen. If we go and take a look at the euro with the USD index chart overlaid, similar situation to the pound, very positive today, breaking above 120 on the euro. It's been some time since it's managed to break above 120, as you can see from the beginning of March. And this huge dip in the dollar is also contributing to this, because you can see that they're quite symmetrical. Dollar dropping and the euro improving its performance, which will be worth keeping an eye on during the week, because we do also have the ECB comments and Lagarde's speeches. So that's all for today, Monday, the 19th of April, 2021. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget our investing day. If you're interested in that kind of an event, feel free to register. We have some excellent speakers, which will definitely be able to help you. So thank you very much for watching. My name is Walid Koudmani, market analyst. Good luck with your trading and have a good day.